Todd, had you heard from Mr. Middlestat at all?
Mr. Middlestat did indicate he would not be able to attend due to a conflict.
Okay. I just want to know because there's someone named Steve here and I didn't know whether to wait for them to be added or not. Okay. All right. I'm going to call this special board meeting on Wednesday, February 3rd to order. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. Middlestat is absent. Mr. Green, would you mind taking roll for us?
I absolutely can do that. Mrs. Berkmeyer.
I am here in Chesterfield, Michigan.
Mr. DeRue.
Here, Madison Heights, Michigan.
Mr. Moses.
Here, New Baltimore, Michigan.
Miss Knox.
Here in Chesterfield, Michigan.
Mr. Richards.
Here, Warren, Michigan.
And Patrick Green is present in New Baltimore, Michigan as well. At this time, I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. Middlestat.
I'll second.
Any discussion before I call that roll? All right, on the motion to excuse Mr. Middlestat, Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Mr. DeRue.
Yes.
Mr. Moses.
Yes.
Miss Knox.
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Mr. Green votes yes, motion carries.
All right, thank you. So just real quick as an intro for this meeting, I know this was pulled together fairly quickly. And so I appreciate the board members being able to attend. There was interest on the board about a resolution that the Michigan Association of School Boards has published regarding school districts, putting their confidence behind allowing in-person contact sports. Now, to be clear, any resolution, should it pass, would not necessarily change the governor's orders. It's just simply a statement that the board, if it were to pass, that the board would feel that the district supports allowing contact sports, and it's just in an effort to put the board's opinion out there or not out there if it were not to pass. So that said, that was all this meeting was about tonight in relation to how things have been going recently, having a rally at the Capitol. And so I'll just kind of leave it at that. But right now we'll go into open forum. I'm going to remind people that open forum that lands at the beginning of the meeting is simply for sticking to the items on the agenda. So any comment tonight in the first open forum needs to be pertinent to any item on the agenda tonight. So with that, either Ms. Bannock or Mr. Sizemore, did you receive any?
We did not.
Okay. I don't see any hands up on my screen. I'll give it a second. And I don't have any chat requests, so. Okay, so we'll close open forum and then moving into item 3, a resolution to allow in-person contact sports. Is there a motion to discuss this item?
I'll make a motion.
I will second the motion.
Okay, do you, Mr. Moses or Ms. Knox, do you have a resolution to put forward?
I do. Would you like me to now read it?
Yes, because it would be part of the
Okay.
motion.
Let me move this screen over. It's the resolution to allow in-person contact sports, whereas Anchor Bay School District is committed to assuring the safety of our students and to taking all reasonable efforts to contain the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas education extends beyond academics in the classroom and that student participation in extracurricular activities, including athletics, plays an essential role in school engagement for a large number of students. And whereas many other states have resumed contact sports and demonstrated students can participate safely under strict protocols, and whereas Anchor Bay School District believes that our student athletes can safely participate in quote unquote contact sports, including basketball, competitive cheer, and wrestling, if we adhere to strict health and safety protocols, including daily health screenings, mask wearing, effective daily sanitation protocols, and implementation of social distancing practices when feasible outside of the competition space. And whereas Anchor Bay School District recognizes that attendance of fans at competitions must be strictly limited in order to minimize the risk of COVID spread, we are not opposed to disallowing fans at competitions at this time if it is necessary to allow students to compete. And whereas with the support and guidance from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan High School Athletic Association, Anchor Bay School District is ready to safely resume all winter sports activities, and most importantly, our student athletes are ready. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Anchor Bay School District calls on MDHHS and the governor to allow Michigan school districts the option to resume all winter sports seasons immediately.
Sorry. Just for record keeping, Mr. Moses, is it okay with you if Ms. Knox has the motion and you support?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
that is-
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. Is there discussion amongst the board?
I guess I do have a question. I came across a couple things today when it comes to the epidemic mandate. I came across something that says, according to the January 22nd MDHHS order, in section 6, it states gatherings for the purpose of contact sports are prohibited unless all participants, teams, and venues comply with the enhanced testing regimen specified in the testing and mitigation measures for athletic practice and play during statewide athletic pause section of MDHHS's document entitled Interim Guidance for Athletics. That document states teams that undertake significant control and mitigation measures may still practice and compete. And then there was a link. So I guess my question is, with the measures that are set in place today, are we still not able to practice and to play the contact sports due to the measures that are in place today?
So, Mr. Rathman, you can confirm, but I believe, districts are allowed to allow practice if they're maintaining the 6 feet, social distancing as well as masks. So practices are generally continuing. There is no competition at this time, though. So I believe it's kind of twofold. Not only does the governor have her mandate, that we not have contact sport, which what you put forward, technically, yes, it is still allowed with rigorous testing, like rapid testing, like they did for football playoffs. But the other piece of it is as a result of the cost of that testing, for the football playoffs, MHSAA was funding those tests. And so going forward, MHSAA is not funding, for another season or for another sport. So the difference now would be that cost would be laid upon, the sport or the district to take that in, which is an exorbitant cost. But on top of that, MHSAA has also at this point postponed all competition. So even if a district were to say, you know, let's absorb that cost to allow our kids to play, we don't have anybody to play. Because as our membership with MHSAA, we must abide, and the competition is on hold at this point. And they did that as a result of knowing the cost that's going to be incurred to all districts and that they themselves were not funding. So it's kind of twofold. The governor there is a path for districts to do it, but our guidelines from MHSAA at this point are on hold and not allowing us to do it. So it would be two pieces.
Yeah, and in the resolution, it just says, you know, safety protocols, daily health screenings, mask wearing, et cetera, but it does leave the part out about testing. MHSAA did pay for about 30,000 tests. There's far more athletes for winter sports overall. It's just not reasonable to have them pay, or have the districts pay, or have parents pay, because some don't have the financial means to do so. But that's why the wording is a little bit different. But I did read the same thing, Dennis, and I wondered about that.
Okay.
You know, furthermore, I know there are districts also a little bit hung up on, you know, if you are to require testing to play, you know, I'm not sure if as a district you want to be in the position of, you know, disallowing somebody to play based on a medical test and getting, you know, going into that arena.
Right.
It's a whole nother ballgame that I don't know, you know, that would obviously take more consideration and discussion and guidance from an attorney. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion?
I guess, I get everybody wants the kids to get back to playing sports as soon as we can. I mean, I'm not, I'm in the same boat. I want the kids to play, but reading the resolution in your last whereas, where it says with support and guidance from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, that's who's giving us guidance right now, correct? That they can't play?
Right.
So we're putting a resolution forward saying in the beginning, whereas is we believe we can play, we believe it's safe, we believe we know better. And then in the last one, we're saying with your support and guidance, we can get through this, when their guidance right now is saying we can't. So it's like, I don't understand the need for this resolution. I mean, we can fight and we can go talk at the Capitol if you like. I mean, we can go on record, I guess, individually saying that we're for this, but to say in a resolution that Anchor Bay School District believes we know better, I just think it's contradictory to say in the last one, but with your support and guidance, when their guidance right now is they don't think it's safe enough to start playing. It doesn't make sense. I mean, Ms. Birkmeyer, you seemed pretty up on this. How does that make sense?
I mean, I know this was put out by the School Board Association at the request of a lot of districts, but the way I would interpret it personally is that, you know, if the governor changes her mandate to allow contact sports, you know, under some guidelines of the health, at that point, under guidelines of.
Right now, it's not the governor, correct? Right now, it's the MDHSA, right? It's not the governor.
Correct, that's true.
Okay, so I know it's the political thing, and we all want to say it's the governor, and we all know all the stuff, whatever, but it's actually the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services that is not allowing sports right now.
Fair enough.
And we're putting forth a resolution that says we know better up top and then down on the bottom, but with your guidance, we can do this. But their guidance is telling us not to. I mean, like I said, I've called state reps, state senators, I've called people on these committees and said, hey, let's talk about this. What can we do? How can we get this going? But I think this resolution's unnecessary. I don't think it makes sense. I think we pulled together a meeting within a day and a half about, getting kids back to sports, but we didn't do this when we were trying, when people were on us to get kids back into the classroom. It just seems rushed. It seems political, and I just don't understand the reasoning for it. I'm all about getting kids back out into the sports when we can. I want to do it in a safe manner. I want to protect our kids as a district. And if I'm asking in my resolution for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services guidance, then I might also follow their guidance. That's all.
If I can speak to that, John, I understand what you're saying about the verbiage there. I looked, when I read it, I interpreted it more as working along with them and not superseding things. So that's how I took it. I can see how you interpret it, though. For some background, we've all seen the numbers. Fall sports playoff season segment, they administered about 30,000 tests that had a 99.8% negative rate. The CDC supports a return with precautions in place. MHSAA supports an immediate return. For me, my support of this is about the kids and letting them know that they have a voice and letting them know that we hear them because our focus is on them. There hasn't been any, trying to think of the word, any indicator from Anchor Bay that we support this. I was at the Capitol this last weekend. There was, that I know of, just 3 sets of people there from Anchor Bay. Our kids don't feel heard. They're struggling anyways with COVID, with virtual, with face-to-face, with what to do, and with these postponements. So they had a loss of their 2020 season, uncertainty of the fall season, which was condensed. Now winter's in jeopardy. Spring could also be in jeopardy. So it's not just about right now, it's about what's happened, what could happen, and letting these kids know that they have a voice and we see them and we hear them. And that's it. This resolution, you're right, it changes nothing, but it does say we'll work with the health department. It's encouraging them, saying we're ready, the students are ready, the athletes are ready to go back. And so that's what I think it's about, is really showing our students that they do have a voice in their school board.
I can see that. I mean, I obviously they have a voice, and I again, you can't. I just don't think. I think it's unfair to pit it against. If you're not for this resolution, then you're not giving the students a voice, or you're anti-athlete, or you're anything like that. And I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying that that's what's going on right now. It's a political world, and if you and it is what it is. I mean, I can deal with it, but. I think that some things about that Capitol protest, we could argue some points of that and what that was about. The genuine kids that went up there, and I listened to a lot of the speeches and stuff. That's awesome. That's awesome. They're taking initiative and going up there. But, some of the stuff when you talk about the sports that we had, I mean, our soccer team was quarantined for a while. I believe a lot of our teams, I got to remember going back then, but a lot of them were quarantined. There was a lot of stuff that was happening, through that. It wasn't like it was a issue-free time period. And I'm just afraid that, it's not like this resolution is going to change it, and it's going to, she ain't going to, I don't think she's gone this far and she's going to all of a sudden get MDHSA, whatever to change. But I don't know. I just think it's I don't think it's a good idea for us to pass this resolution. And I don't think the resolution is necessary.
Mr. Rathbun or Mr. McDonald, do you have any numbers when we look at fall sports? Maybe, I don't know if you guys have that, but when you look at the teams that were quarantined, or the number of students that were quarantined, or any positives?
Yeah, I can share some data. We did have 397 students participate in our fall sports. Of those 397, we had 102 quarantine at one point in time, or maybe even multiple times during the season. We had 8 athletes that did test positive for COVID out of the 397. So that's about a 2% positive rate of COVID. But we did have significant amounts of students, 102, that had to quarantine as a result of being in proximity to someone who had tested positive for COVID.
And I know, Ms. Knox, I know you led this and wanted to get this going. What does our athletic department say about this? And have you talked to our administrators? I mean, what's the sense that you're getting from everyone in the department? And then as far as, I don't know if you talked to Mr. Rathbun, I don't know if he wants to go on record with this, but what was the background there?
I have not spoken with the athletic department prior to leading up to this resolution. I didn't know that it was appropriate to do so. I know it was said that I shouldn't reach out to maybe some coaches and things because it can be seen as intimidation, as they're also employees of the school. And this was strictly a school board resolution. But I know that's been frustration for parents that they haven't spoken out, and that there has been no word from the school on whether or not they see it, that it's reasonable to move forward.
So I guess I can understand that, but so you never reached out to even the athletic director. We're saying in a resolution that we can hold these events and we can do all the proper protocols, but we haven't talked to our athletic department who's going to be in charge of carrying out those protocols.
Right.
So how can we say without a shadow of a doubt that we can do it when we don't have the people who are doing it on board with us with this resolution?
And that way the athletic department follows the guidelines of MHSAA, and MHSAA has said that we can move forward. That's who our department functions under.
And MHSAA is a private organization run by a private citizen, correct?
It is a private organization, yes. I'm not sure.
So MHSAA has different reasonings of why they'd want to open back up and different metrics that they measure themselves by than what a school district would.
Maybe, maybe not. The athletic department does follow the guidelines, and that's what we followed.
I just think it's very premature to do this. I think it's knowing now that, we didn't have our administrators on board. We don't have our athletic department on board. We're doing this in a day and a half. I think it's disrespectful to do that to them. It's not proper procedure in my mind. I think I get it. We want to make people happy and we want to tell parents what they want to hear and we want to tell kids what they want to hear. I do too. I know people that are seniors and they're losing their senior season. That would have killed me. I was a 3-sport athlete when I was in high school. It would suck. It's just, we got to know more about when we're going into something and not just, I just think we're rushing into this. And I think that there's a lot going on here that's being driven by politics. And I'm not saying you, I'm just saying that when MHSAA gets involved, the governor, again, I've heard it tonight, the governor, it's, for whatever you think, it's the Department of Health and Human Services doing this. And I think this is a bad idea. This is a bad precedent for us to send. Does anybody know how many school districts have passed this resolution?
I don't know. I could definitely find that out, but I know that there have been quite a few who have, so much so that MASB came out with the template for it.
So it's my understanding that there isn't that many. I don't know how many. That's why I was asking you, but
Yeah, I would have to look it up.
what I've done, called around when I got this information, we were having this meeting, and I called around as many people as I could because I didn't understand why we're doing this and what we're trying to accomplish with it. But I do understand kids being upset, and I love to see kids getting involved, and I'd love to see kids get on tonight and talk about and speak up for themselves. And I think that's much more powerful when you have a student athlete on the Capitol steps. That's very powerful. And I will drive a busload of them. Well, social distancing, I guess, different cars meet there. And I would love to see that out of Anchor Bay. And I'm all for that activism, but that's the proper way. Let's let them do it. And I just, if we're going to be, and then as far as my understanding of that hearing that I know was posted out there and said we should do the same, that lady that was talking at the committee hearing, they didn't allow health professionals into that committee hearing. That wasn't allowed. It was all one-sided, that committee hearing. And I think that's wrong. So I think we're being pulled in a direction here that just is wrong. And again, it's not because I'm anti-athlete. It's not because I'm it's just because I think what we're doing here is a strange precedent to set. And we're not bringing our school district on board. Whatever you might think of the athletic department and what they're doing, let's talk to them. Let's find out what they think and move forward.
Any other comments, Mr. Green? I don't know if you have anything to add or before we move on.
I guess my thought process with this, John, is that we're definitely not circumventing, either the governor or MDHHS. All these abbreviations throw me. And we're going to follow guidance from MH, the High School Athletic Association as well. I see your position, and I do see in the agreement where it's contradictory, where we say, we want to do X, we demand to do X, and then we get down to the bottom in the Z and we say, well, we're going to follow your guidance anyway. I guess my position is this is, for me, a way to send a message as a school district that we want our kids playing. Parents certainly still have the option of not enrolling their students or allowing their students to practice if they feel safe there and then not play. Obviously, with high school athletics, as you go on the road. So there's a little bit of risk that, if they go over to a Utica or a Sterling Heights or Chip Valley or something like that they've taken all the protocols there too, to keep things clean. But again, my position after reading it is we're not circumventing anything, and certainly our athletic department was in compliance with MHSAA in the fall, almost to the T, to some frustration of my own, but I know they were following the guidelines. I don't feel like passing this does anything other than send a message that we're frustrated, we want to be back, that our parents have reached out to us that they want to be back, and that, if indeed, whether it's the governor, whether it's MHSAA, or if it's the Health and Human Services said, you can't do this, we're not. I don't see us, going against that order. That's not something I would quite honestly tolerate. I would expect Mr. Battle, as he's done through the fall, to be well versed on what the regulations were. And he and I had some conversations off the cuff, and Mr. McDonald as well as our high school principal. And they were very well versed on, without being prompted or, having to look anything up, of what exactly their restrictions to operate under were at that exact minute that, was changing dynamically. So I do understand your concerns, but I'm more about putting it back into my parents' hands. And again, would expect Mr. Battle, if we're going to violate some type of, policy or procedure or guidance that we've gotten from the Athletic Association, we can't do it. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, to add to that, my own opinion in terms of, maybe the resolution being contradictory. The way I interpreted it myself was, when it says at the bottom, with the support and guidance of the Health and Human Services Department, I take that to mean, should they change their mind or should they change their tune, change the order, we will follow all of their rules put forward once we're allowed to compete. And then in terms of adhering to safety protocols, they were the ones, they're laid out, daily health screenings, mask wearing, sanitation and implementation, and such. That's stuff that we're doing just in our day-to-day attending school. And obviously we did it in the fall, and we would continue to do that and anything that, may change or be mandated to change, or, that we'd have to incorporate going forward. So I took it as, this is, should the Health and Human Service Department change the order? And like you said, you're very right. It's not the governor at this point, and that's very correct. Should they change that, we will abide by, but we just would like to have our students competing and participating in sport beyond practice. So that's the way that I took it. But certainly everybody is entitled,
But Ms. Burkmeyer, you made my point. You just said, and I get it, and I'll stop, but you made my point. You said it's if they change their mind and they decide to let sports, we're going to follow the rules. Yes. So the resolution's unnecessary. Now, us as a board,
telling them to please change their mind, and we will.
What would be compelling them is, well, I would offer up tonight, what would be compelling them is, let's invite a state rep or two to our next board meeting. And let's tell the students, come to a board meeting and let your voices be heard and talk. And the school board's behind you, and we want you to be able to play, but we want you to play underneath safe circumstances. And when the Department of Health and Human Services deems it safe, and because right now no one in this room has given me the facts of scientific facts or why they're competing against what Health and Human Services is saying. And at the state level, they didn't either, because the committee chair decided not to allow them into the committee. There's a reason they didn't. So I would say tonight, yes, as a board, we all want our kids to be heard. We all want our kids to be able to play. This was a great education piece for them. Let's invite State Representative Hornberger and maybe find someone on the education committee or find someone on the committee that's dealing with this. Come to the meeting. And let's invite our students to come on here and speak to your state rep. Let your voice be heard. That's more, if that's what we're truly trying to get at, if that's what we're truly trying to say is we want to hear our students and we want our students to be heard, that's better than sending a useless resolution to the governor's desk that she's not going to follow. And Mr. Green, we had parents all over us when we didn't have students in school. And when we were going between not school and online, and when the governor had the schools closed, when it was her closing the schools, there was no one on here. And I know it was a different board, but some of the same board members, there was no one saying, let's get a resolution to send to the desk. Let's just be smart about this, and let's try a different way. But if I'm all about hearing from the students. I want to hear them, and I want their voices to be heard. I'll invite them. I'll call whatever state rep, get them to the next meeting. Tell the students, come on here. Tell them what you think. And in turn, those state reps or those leaders can tell those students why we're held up. Maybe reach out to Department of Health and Human Services and have a rep come to our meeting. You know, I mean, let's think outside the box. Let's truly find what we're looking to do. Because right now, I don't think we did. And I think we left our school district behind by not having administrators in the athletic department involved in this resolution. I think it's an ill-prepared thing we're doing tonight. And I can't tell you how much I disagree with what we're doing.
Any further discussion? Mr. Moses, did you have anything before we move on?
Yeah, just don't want to oversimplify things, but let's face it, we played in the fall. We coaches want to coach, players want to play and everybody knows the risk. I say we send the resolution and we do what you're talking about, John. Let's do both. Let's get these kids back playing sports.
Okay. Seeing no unmutes for further comment, Mr. Green, will you call the roll to approve the resolution to allow in-person contact sports as presented?
I will, Madam President. Let's start with you. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Knox,
Yes.
Moses,
Yes.
Richards,
No.
Mr. Drew.
No.
Mr. Green votes yes. Motion carries. Mr. Middlestad is not present to vote.
Okay. We'll move on to union communications. I know Ms. Petron had already noted she did not have additional things to add. I don't know if there's other union members present. Not seeing any. Okay. So we will move forward to open forum public comments, part 2. I am seeing a Mr. Powers.
Yeah, am I there?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, you know, funny, I was just about to sign up this morning to speak in the opening round of comments, and I thought, well, that's completely unnecessary. This resolution is, you know, there's nothing like financial about it. We're not setting any policy tonight. It's simply a show of support to our student athletes. Who would possibly be against this? It's completely unnecessary to take up time and speak on this, because why wouldn't anybody vote for it? But I guess, you know, if there's one thing that you can always rely on, it's that if you give the Anchor Bay School Board the opportunity, they will find a way to let you down. And tonight is no different. There was not one single ounce of politics in this meeting or in this resolution until one person, and anybody who wants to will be able to go back and watch this meeting, until one person decided to make it political and to make it divisive. So congratulations, pot got stirred, and now instead of sending a clear signal to our student athletes that we got their back, that we hear them, that we understand their frustrations, and that we're here to fight with them, we can't make these decisions as a board tonight. Everybody knows that the board doesn't have the power to put them back on the field or on the court or in the gyms. It was simply a show of support to say, we hear your frustrations, and if you're a student athlete at Anchor Bay, your school board has your back. And we just couldn't even bring ourselves to do that, could we? So have a great night. And whatever you were trying to accomplish tonight by voting no, I hope you got what you wanted.
Sorry. I'm not seeing any other hands. Not sure if any other board members are. Okay, we'll move on. We have superintendent comments. Mr. Rathbun, did you have any comments you wanted to add?
I have no comments this evening.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll go down to board comments. We'll go ahead with, let's start with Mr. Green, since you're always last.
And of course, I have nothing to say, but thank you. I appreciate the effort.
Nice. Okay, Mr. Richards?
I understand the student and parent frustration when it comes to contact sports. I know that we're asking for a resolution. You know, when I read this, you know, we already have a resolution in place. I get that it's costly. I look forward to seeing what changes are going to be made, if any. To Mr. DeRue's point, you know, I think, you know, I look forward to maybe seeing some students, maybe getting some elected officials on here like he had mentioned. I think their voice speaks louder than ours. You know, I'd like to hear from, the athletic director also on something like this. Even from Mr. Rathbun too, from a cost standpoint too. I just want to make sure that we're there financially. What we have to do too to make some of the changes too. But but that's all I have to say.
Mr. Moses?
Yeah, I'm glad the resolution passed, John, but I do agree with you both. I think there's other things that we can do, and I'm looking forward to hopefully all of us, including you, let's get these representatives here and let's get these kids talking. If that's what it takes, let's do it. Let's get these kids back playing some sports.
Okay. Mr. Drew?
Yeah. Mr. Moses, I like, and everyone, I agree. Yeah. And, you'd have to say there's no politics in this. Okay. But I think, again, like I said, I think it's great when the student athletes themselves speak up, and I'm listening, and I will reach out to the state reps. I'll work with you, Madam President, to bring in next meeting some leaders in the community, some state reps, maybe reach out to the MDHSA, whatever, the Department of Health and Human Services, and let's have a real conversation and have the student athletes, have their voices heard. It'll be good education for them, and that's truly what we're looking for. That's all I was getting across. And to say that we're going to have, that I'd like to see our athletic department be part of the decision of putting a resolution forth. It's not just about, resolution just doesn't say, we hear you, students. The resolution says a lot of things. And when you're signing your name to that as a school board and pushing that off, I want to be able to believe in every part of it. So it's nothing against anybody on the board. That's just me. So, but let's do it. Let's have that conversation, and let's go talk to the athletic department, and let's bring them on board, and do it the right way. That's all. There's nothing political. It's we're all going to work together. We're all adults in this room, and we can have differences and disagree on things and move forward. And I think the students could see that. I'll talk to, I know many of the student athletes. Some of them are, kids of good friends of mine, and I talk to them. Let's get them on here. So I look forward to our next meeting, and I look forward to Ms. Birkmeyer, you working with me to bring them in, and we'll go from there.
Ms. Knox?
I appreciate the board gathering on such short notice. I think the catalyst for part of this was that the health department, MDHHS, hasn't spoken out in 8 days regarding contact sports. So I'm not sure that they would come here to speak with our students. I know I see a lot of familiar names of our students in the Zoom. I'm not sure. I know one was trying to speak, but was confused by the format because they're not always in here. I think they're now though. But yeah, they haven't said anything. So I think showing support for our students and letting them know that we're here, and like I said, they're seen and heard, can go a long way sometimes. I know a lot are struggling, and I think it's a good show for the board to put on that support. That is all.
Thank you. As for myself, I think I explained my thoughts earlier, but I look at it as I think Anchor Bay is ready to move forward, just as we did in the fall. And we always do comply, and we will comply with whatever it would take. And I just would like to see us be able to do that and not have our hands tied in that fashion. For our students, again, I also believe that it's a show of support for them. I know there are unfortunately students struggling in this, pandemic climate that we have, whether it be school, home, sports, just as adults, some adults are struggling as well in various ways. As a parent, it's hard for me to watch a child or a student be going through that and know that maybe I could affect something to help. So that's the way I look at it. So that said, we will wrap up. And do I have a motion? Oh, sorry. And I will also add, Mr. Drew, I will be happy to work with you. Probably our next meeting curriculum next week is maybe not quite appropriate for it, but we can look, and short notice for many representatives. But we can look, see if we can extend some invitations and if we can get anybody on board to our late February meeting. And, if we can secure some people that we know will be there, we can put the word out for our students as well, because I agree, that's a very powerful, way, and probably more powerful way than this to go about it. Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll
Motion
make
to
the motion.
I'll take the motion from Ms. Knox and a second from Mr. Moses, if that's all right. And go ahead and call the roll, Mr. Green.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Moses,
Yes.
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Drew,
Yes.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Green votes yes. Motion carries.
All right, meeting's adjourned at 7:47. Have a good night, everybody. We have a curriculum scheduled meeting next week on Wednesday. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.